So Sarah Miller gave me a Pittsburgh shirt without any teams on it, and we went back to the resort. And then my dad didn't come home. My dad didn't come back to the resort until 4 o'clock in the morning because she had a lot of stuff going on, and my dad was like exhausted. And then it was now Saturday, October 28th, 2017, and it was time for us to go home. And it took us 8 hours to get home. We spent about like 5 hours on Pennsylvania Turnpike, and we made about like 2 or 3 stops on the way home. And then I ended up getting another Pennsylvania shirt. And then I actually started to see Philadelphia signs once we passed Harrisburg. And then we didn't get into Jersey about like 3 o'clock. We left at like 10 in the morning, and we didn't get into Jersey until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But first things first, when we started driving, we actually went back into the city area, and we decided to pass by the Pittsburgh Penguins arena. And we got to see what the building looked like in person. And I saw all their Stanley Cup banners, all 5 of their Stanley Cup banners. I was still pissed that they repeated the Stanley Cup champion, but I was happy enough that I got to see the arena. It's like, this is the first time in my life I've ever been happy to see the Penguins, because I can't stand them. My entire family thought it was upsetting that we accidentally missed the game when it was something nice to do on vacation. I didn't take 3 days off of school for nothing. I planned this Pittsburgh trip. I planned to go to Pittsburgh ever since my dad made that appointment with Sarah Miller back in April. I've been planning to go on this Pittsburgh trip as long as my dad did. We were originally going to go in September, but like during Rosh Hashanah weekend, but my dad ended up having a concert, so we had to postpone until October. My dad had this trip planned since April. And then I started to plan it too. My dad was originally going to go himself, but he wanted the whole family to come with to keep him company while he's getting his tattoo. So we all went. And my brothers only went to Pennsylvania for Great Wolf Lodge because they wanted to do fun stuff with my cousin instead of being on that long drive with us to Pittsburgh, like going across a large state of Pennsylvania. And I don't blame them. I mean, not that many people like to drive across Pennsylvania, and I understand why. Pennsylvania is like a really huge state. My brothers experienced this for the first time when we went to Buffalo in 2020. We had to drive 7 hours to get to Buffalo. We left at like 11 in the morning, and we didn't get there till like 6:30 at night. And by the time we had dinner in Buffalo, the sun was already going down. Yeah, that's how it went. So yeah, it took us 8 hours to get home from Pittsburgh. And this is actually not the first time we had to postpone a trip in the middle of fall. You know, we also had you guys definitely remember that we had to postpone our Disney trip back in 2021 because my grandmother passed away. Like, we were originally going to go in August, but then all of a sudden my grandmother wasn't doing so well anymore, that she passed away. And we had the funeral that week, and we also had the hurricane on me, if you guys remember. that we ended up booking it in September instead. Which worked out even better for us, believe it or not. So, yeah, so the same thing happened when we went to Pittsburgh. But it was some totally different reason. It was because there was a concert happening on Rosh Hashanah. Like September 21st or 22nd that year. Yeah. I remember having those days off school. Yeah, it's too bad we didn't go during Rosh Hashanah because I wouldn't have to miss that much school. I would probably only have to miss that Wednesday because I was in Great Wolf Lodge a day beforehand. Yeah. I'm sorry I don't really go to Great Wolf anymore like I used to. My mom suggested that we're a little too old for that place. I'm still hoping I go to Cartwright one day, which is a little more age appropriate than Great Wolf. I don't hate Great Wolf. I really loved it there. But my mom is looking for some place a little more towards our speed. Yeah. I still love Great Wolf, don't get me wrong, but my mom thought it was time to look for something a little more our speed. Yeah, so we spent like 5 hours on the turnpike and we didn't get home until like 6 at night. But we were home just in time for me to FaceTime my friend Kyle, and I was also watching the Rangers play against the Montreal Canadiens that night. Yeah, I remember this trip like it was yesterday. I remember I had Denny's and all that stuff. I remember showing you guys the pictures. I really loved that trip. I really loved going to Pittsburgh. Despite how much I really hate the Penguins. Despite how much I hate the Penguins, I really loved the Pittsburgh trip. It was a great idea that my dad decided to bring all of us. It was like one of the greatest 11th grade memories. Despite the fact it was a week after we lost Zoe. I remember the trip like it was yesterday. Yeah, so the next morning, we actually had a tropical storm the next morning. And then it transitioned. And then it like transformed into a nor'easter and then a bomb cyclone. Yeah, that's right. We had like this extra tropical storm the next morning, and then it like changed into a nor'easter. It was Tropical Storm Philippe we had to put up with the next morning, that Sunday. And my brothers were coming home from my cousins during the tropical storm. My uncle had to drive my brothers home in that tropical storm, Philippe. And there was a lot of rain coming down like crazy. Now my brothers had to come home in that. It's a good thing the Giants had a bye week because we were dealing with that tropical storm. And it was also Hurricane Sandy's 5th anniversary that day. That we had to deal with another storm 5 years after Sandy. And this storm had like a lot of flooding with it. It had a lot of rain with it. And it had a lot of damaging winds with it. Yeah, that was like the craziest time I had with my post-trip experience. By 10:30 at night, it was still raining, and then all of a sudden we had like these hurricane force gusts like exploding everywhere. The winds were like really coming in. It was like blowing like crazy. Like one of the tarps nearly blew away at 10:30 at night. It was like chaos. I remember making last minute preparations before I left for Pittsburgh. Like, I remember that Monday, I went to a Rangers game against the San Jose Sharks. that Monday 2 days beforehand, and then that Tuesday on the 24th, I remember running around making storm preparations and doing last minute checks before the trip. I was like preparing for a tropical storm and packing for my trip at the same time. It was chaos that night. I was like running around like crazy, trying to get everything together. Yeah, I have not forgotten that I was running around that night, making sure nothing gets damaged by the wind, because by the time we got home that Saturday, we were beat. I still remember that. Yeah, we had like a tropical storm. We had Tropical Storm Philippe, and then it was a nor'easter that bombed cyclone. It was like a very destructive storm the Northeast had to put up with that Sunday on Sandy's 5th anniversary. These were all the same places that Hurricane Sandy impacted 5 years beforehand. They had to deal with Tropical Storm Philippe, both the Northeast and New England. Power was cut to like billions of people that night, and they were out of power for like days. It's a good thing I didn't lose power, but people had to like put up with the same memory they had with Sandy once again. Like, many people had to live through Halloween and the start of November without power again, just like what happened in 2012. It's a good thing I wasn't one of those people, but a lot of people in the Northeast had to deal with that again, just like what they had to go through with Sandy on Halloween. So yeah, Pittsburgh was a beautiful trip. It's a shame that I had to deal with a tropical storm the day afterwards and then go back to school after the storm was over and people were having no power. But overall, Pittsburgh was a great trip. So I guess that's it.